What if Tensura the Eighth Primordial? Author Tenten 100. When Haru of the Minamoto dies standing after a heroic effort during the Genpei War, he is reincarnated in the world of that time. I got reincarnated as a slime, as a demon. In the Underworld, as a bottom feeder. Watch Haru climb the ranks of the demon ladder and maybe someday stand toe-to-toe with the monsters of the Underworld and the Cardinal World. Chapter 28, Primordial Bordeaux. Somewhere in the Underworld, Diablo stood, a broad smile stretching across his face. My, he murmured aloud, his voice calm but tinged with excitement. What a development! To think he was my brother this entire time. What an interesting demon. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. It's been a while since I've seen him. Perhaps I should pay him a visit. Elsewhere in an elegantly decorated room, a calm and beautiful demon sat with poise. This was Blanc, later to be named Testarossa by Rimuru Tempest. Her expression was serene, yet her eyes betrayed a hint of shock. So Ultima isn't the youngest, she murmured to herself. This is very interesting. Standing attentively nearby, Moss cleared his throat. Blanc-sama, he asked carefully, is something the matter? Blanc lifted a delicate porcelain cup, sipping slowly before responding. Well, I wouldn't say it's a matter exactly, but something did happen. Moss inclined his head. Oh, and that is. Blanc's gaze remained soft yet focused. It seems I have another younger sibling now. Moss's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of disbelief crossing his features. As in another primordial, he asked. That's correct, Blanc replied evenly, placing the cup on the table. Moss frowned, deep in thought. But shouldn't there only be 7 primordials? How does one just show up out of nowhere? Blanc tilted her head slightly, the faintest smile on her lips. Even I am not certain, she said calmly, but I am sure we will find out very soon. Moss bowed slightly. Yes, Blanc-sama. Back on the battlefield, Haru and Karara remained locked in a tense silence, the remnants of battle settling around them. The voice of the world resonated through the field, calm, yet carrying immense authority. Appointing primordial demon title and color. Primordial maroon, name Bordeaux. Attempting acquisition of unique skill, prototype. Acquisition successful. Unique skill, prototype. Prototype allows the user to instantly construct objects from memory, using object manifestation, which does so using magicules. All objects created through this skill can be remotely controlled by the user's mind, and since objects use magicules, permanent objects cannot be created. Evolution to Primordial Archdemon successful. Haru's thoughts raced, spinning faster than he could organize them. The first coherent thought to escape his lips was blunt and immediate. What the fuck? Karara's piercing gaze didn't waver. Who are you really? She asked, voice calm but threaded with curiosity and caution. Haru rose slowly, feeling the weight of his newly evolved body. The drowsiness from the archdemon evolution pressed on him, but he forced himself upright. I'm just as confused as you are, trust me, he admitted sheepishly. A flurry of thoughts circled in his mind, forming almost incoherent fragments. Bordeaux, that's my name now. A primordial archdemon prototype, another busted unique skill. What the hell is going on here? Karara watched him, analyzing the sudden shift in his presence, the overwhelming aura that now radiated from him. Haru felt it too, the sharp difference between what he had been moments ago and what he had become now. The raw, untamed potential thrumming through his veins. Primordial Archdemon Bordeaux, the names felt foreign yet natural. His identity had shifted in an instant. Karara's gaze flicked over Haru. You are a being beyond any conventional measure, she murmured, almost to herself. A huge smile spread across her face. Karara tilted her head slightly. eyes narrowing with interest as she examined Haru's newly evolved form. "So then," she said casually, "what is your title, little brother?" Esprit froze. Little brother. Her eyes darted between Kara and Haru, confusion plastered across her face. She blinked rapidly, then spoke hesitantly. "John, I think you called this demon brother by mistake." Kara's smile widened. "Nope, no mistake at all," she pointed at Haru. "He genuinely is my brother, and he's a genuine primordial demon." Esprit's jaw dropped open. Her gaze snapped to Haru, who looked 1 second from passing out, and she muttered, "You've got to be kidding me." Kara threw her head back and laughed. "I'm not kidding at all. So hey, look at it this way. You lost to a primordial. That's far less embarrassing than saying you got beaten by some random greater demon, am I right?" Esprit's eye twitched. "I guess that makes sense," she admitted reluctantly. Then she frowned. "But what exactly are we going to do with him?" Kara brightened. "Oh, I know." She cupped her hands around her mouth and called out sweetly, "Little brother, big sister asked you a question. Are you not going to answer?" Haru snapped out of his daze and looked up blearily. "Oh, sorry, my title is Bordeaux." Kara clasped her hands together. "Bordeaux, that's what you shall be known as for eternity. Not bad at all." Haru nodded weakly. Thanks, I guess. Now can you please dispel your barrier? I need to find a place to rest before I pass out." Kara leaned in with a teasing smile. "Oh, come on, Bordeaux. Don't you want to spend time with your big sister? We are family, after all." Haru stared at her blankly. What the hell is this woman talking about? Seeing his deadpan expression, Kara chuckled. Fine, I'll cut to the chase." She pointed at him. "Bordeaux, become my subordinate. If I remember correctly, Rouge also has primordials as subordinates, so I should too." Haru blinked, then he sighed. Look, John, I don't have the time to play these games with you." Kara's smile dropped instantly. Nuclear energy flared across her palms, humming with lethal intensity. "Don't be mistaken, little brother," she said coldly. "I wasn't asking you. I was telling you, you don't have a choice." Haru didn't even flinch. He simply raised one hand. Magicules spiraled around his lower arm, compact and precise. A metallic structure formed from nothing, locking into place in a single smooth motion. An arm cannon. Kara's eyes widened slightly. "What's this?" Haru pressed the trigger. A deafening blast erupted point-blank, vaporizing the entire top half of Kara's body in an instant. Esprit screamed, "Jaune!" She bolted forward as dust and heat washed over the battlefield. Haru, without even looking at the destruction he caused, turned and began stumbling away, swaying like a drunk man from exhaustion and sleepiness. Kara's body regenerated in a violent burst of magic, her upper half reforming in a flash. She wiped dust from her cheek, her gaze darkening. "You've done it now, Bordeaux." Haru stopped walking, turned, looked back at her with a tired, annoyed expression. "You are so persistent." Suddenly, rings of teleportation magic spiraled open in the sky, glowing bright above them. Kara and Esprit looked up sharply. Haru pointed lazily with one finger. "Enjoy my little parting gift." A second teleportation circle formed beneath his feet. Kara's eyes widened as the runes began to glow. "Bordeaux," she shouted. A massive nuclear magic beam tore through the battlefield, but it hit nothing. Haru vanished just as the spell reached him. The ground exploded where he had stood, smoke erupting into the air. Esprit stared in silence, trembling slightly. Kara turned toward her. "What's wrong?" Esprit didn't answer. She simply raised a shaking hand and pointed upward. Kara frowned. "What now?" She followed Esprit's gesture, looked up and froze. 20 enormous meteors blazed through the underworld sky, falling in a synchronized formation. fiery tails splitting the darkness. Kara let out a slow, stunned breath. "Well then," she murmured, a smile crept over her lips, a genuine one. "Rouge Noir, and now Bordeaux." She laughed quietly, almost disbelievingly. "These guys are monsters beyond monsters." She placed a hand on her hip, still staring upward. "I'll never admit it to their faces, but how in the world did that kid teleport 20 meteors from the Cardinal World to the Underworld? How is that even possible?" The meteors continued their descent, lighting up the entire sky. Kara just stared at them, equal parts impressed and annoyed. "Bordeaux, you're going to be a real problem." Chapter 29, Fourth Strongest Primordial. Haru's eyes snapped open. A wave of raw power surged through his body. Rushing like a tide he could barely contain. He lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling of whatever cave he had collapsed in after teleporting, and a slow, wide smile stretched across his face. "Finally," he exhaled. "Finally, I'm at the top of the food chain. I'm no longer prey. Being prey is exhausting." He sat up, rubbing his temples as memories and sensations slotted back into place. 3 days ago, after evolving, his mind had been too foggy to process anything, probably due to the mechanics of evolution. Everything felt distant and surreal. Now it was crystal clear. "So it's like that, huh?" he muttered. "I awakened as a primordial, because the original 8th primordial's soul merged completely with mine. So the second soul that I had was the soul of the primordial. So whose life am I living now?" He pinched the bridge of his nose. "Great, fantastic, amazing. So if I assume I'm now an original demon, it means that I'm now siblings with the other 7 primordials." A long, defeated groan left his throat. "Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this at all." He flopped back onto the ground. "Because that means I can't make a move on Testarossa anymore. She was a prime candidate for waifu, an absolute top tier, the most beautiful female character in Tensura. But nope, apparently we are related now. And unfortunately for everyone, I'm not into incest." He stared blankly upward. "Though, are demonic sibling bonds even real bonds? I mean, it's kind of a gray area." He quickly shook his head. "No, stop bad thoughts." He sat upright again, crossing his arms. "Fine, okay, next candidate, Velgrind." He immediately sighed. "Nope, pointless. That woman is obsessed with Rudra. I wouldn't even get a crumb of attention." He raised a finger. "Third option, Velzard." He hesitated, also obsessed with Guy Crimson of all people. But then he paused. Well, Velzard did fall for Guy because of his strength, so maybe if I embarrass Guy in battle and beat her in a fight, she'll fall for me. He slapped both cheeks with his hands. "No, no, no. What am I doing? Why am I going down a rabbit hole about women who don't even have me in the back of their minds?" He forced himself to refocus, back on topic. He frowned. "I don't remember anything about an 8th primordial demon in the web novel or the light novel, so I will assume this is AU. So does this mean an 8th primordial angel exists too? This is too much thinking for my non-intelligent brain." He stood up stretching, and his untamed power crackled off him in waves. "My strength, my goodness, I'm broken." He looked down at his hands, flexing them slowly. Basically immune to all attacks, and on top of that, a grin crept in. "I got prototype, a skill that lets me forge anything I can remember." He laughed weakly. "Giving this skill to someone who has reincarnated twice is absolutely unfair. The whole verse is cooked. I can literally forge nukes and drop them on people. Sure, maybe not as strong as Carrera's, but still." His grin widened. The possibilities are endless. He tested the air, feeling his body respond instantly. "My speed, strength, endurance, everything's up. I could probably be quantified as light speed now. Maybe not movement-wise, but definitely reaction speed. All top tiers can do that." He nodded to himself, and I'm a top tier now. He tapped his chin, evaluating. If I had to rank myself among the Primordials, I'd probably be fourth. Diablo, Guy, and Testarossa are stronger than me. He clenched a fist. A few years of fighting other top tiers, and I can probably surpass Testarossa. Guy and Diablo are another different story entirely. His eyes narrowed. And I should manifest fully in the Cardinal World soon. I still owe Raisin some payback. His smile widened at that thought. Elsewhere, a massive magic ripple echoed through the Underworld as two figures fully manifested. Rain stretched her arms above her head. Wow, this place hasn't changed at all, even after all this time. Misery didn't even look around. Why would it change, Rain? The Underworld has been unchanging since the beginning of time. Rain pouted slightly. I guess you're right. Misery turned to her with a flat expression. Besides, we are not here to sightsee. We need information about our new little brother. Rain blinked. Then she smiled, a slow, almost mischievous smile. Little brother, huh? Feels weird. Guy-sama and that Noir always bullied us as the older siblings. She cracked her knuckles. Maybe now I'll finally get to bully a younger sibling of mine. Misery folded her arms behind her back, expression calm as ever. We're closest to Violet, she said. We should probably pay her a visit. Rain's eyes lit up. Violet, huh? I can't wait to see her again. Misery nodded once. Let's go. Both primordials vanished, teleportation distorting the space around them. The two primordials were intent on finding Bordeaux. Inside Violet's castle, an ornate hall shimmered in soft magenta light. Velvet curtains draped the walls, and a throne-like chair far too extravagant for anyone but Violet rested at the center. Ultima lounged upon it lazily, crossing one leg over the other as she swirled a glass of champagne. The bubbling liquid reflected her mischievous smile in every ripple. Behind her stood Veyron and Zonda, silent and vigilant. Then a pulse of magic rippled through the room. Rain and Misery manifested in an instant, their auras brushing against the castle interior like cold wind. Veyron and Zonda reacted immediately. They moved one to the left, one to the right, forming a defensive barrier around Ultima. Their eyes narrowed sharply. Blue Vert, Veyron's voice was tense, guarded. What are you doing here? Zonda didn't blink once. His posture was razor-sharp, ready for violence. During this short exchange, Violet didn't move nor show any tension whatsoever. She just kept swirling her champagne, sipping it with uninterested grace, completely unfazed by the arrival of two primordials. Misery raised a hand lightly. Butler, I believe we've told you before that we have names now. Misery and Rain, please address us as such, and don't get so tense. We're not here for conflict. We only came to talk. Zonda scoffed immediately. Oh, please, like we'd believe that for even a second. Primordials fought often enough in the Underworld that caution was never optional. Veyron and Zonda were not about to lower their guard, not even for a heartbeat. Ultima clicked her tongue. HMPH, if it isn't the two primordial weaklings. Rain smiled sweetly. Don't say such words, Violet. It takes away from your cuteness. Ultima's face darkened immediately. I don't care what you think of me. Misery stepped forward just slightly. Violet, we truly aren't here to cause trouble. We simply have some questions. Ultima lowered her glass, her expression shifting subtly. Oh, I know. I think I already have a pretty good idea of what you want to ask. Misery met her gaze. Well then, are you familiar with him? A pause. Our little brother. Chapter 30. Rain and Misery are shocked. Violet flicked her wrist lightly, a casual wave that dismissed Veyron and Zonda as if the situation before her was nothing worth worrying over. The two exchanged a single glance, a silent confirmation, before stepping back to their original positions behind her throne. Rain smiled brightly. Good girl, Violet. Without waiting for permission, both she and Misery began walking toward the seating area around a polished obsidian table, clearly making themselves comfortable in Ultima's castle. Ultima's eyes narrowed. I never gave you two permission to sit down. Misery didn't even slow. Rain didn't look back. Both simply sat, ignoring Ultima's statement completely. Ultima clicked her tongue, irritation crackling in the air. As Rain sank into her chair, she called out casually, "Chef, can you pour me some of the champagne Violet is having?" Ultima's voice immediately cut through the room. "Chef, don't you dare move a muscle." Rain pouted. "Come on, Violet, don't be stingy." "Enough, Rain." Misery's tone dropped, sharp but controlled as she cut her off. "Don't forget why we're here." Rain shut her mouth instantly and straightened her posture like a child scolded by a teacher. Misery then turned to Violet. "Violet, can you tell us anything you know?" Ultima took a slow sip before responding. "Did Rouge send you here?" Misery corrected her without hesitation. "He has a name, Violet. It's Guy Crimson. And yes, he's the one who sent us." Violet's lips curved into a knowing smile. "Well then, Blue and Vert, go tell Guy that if he wants information from me, he must personally come and ask for it from me." Misery exhaled, more weary than surprised. "Don't be so unreasonable, Violet. Besides, Guy-sama wanted to come here himself in the first place. We simply offered to come because we too were interested in this sibling of ours." Ultima lifted her glass above her head. Before a word left her mouth, Zonda was already at her side, pouring more champagne with flawless precision. After the glass was poured, she swirled the drink gently, took another sip, and let a pleased smile touch her lips. Then, "Just like I've said, tell your guy to come ask me himself. I don't talk to subordinates." Rain crossed her legs and leaned back, unfazed. "Violet, if you don't talk, Misery and I are just going to stay here until you do. We're in no rush anyway, right, Misery?" Misery stared at her, not blinking, not breathing, looking at Rain like she was the biggest fool alive. "What is this idiot talking about? Guy-sama told us to be as fast as possible, because the balance of the world is literally at stake." Misery opened her mouth, ready to state exactly that, but Rain cut her off. "And besides, Violet, if I remember correctly, you have a wide variety of wines and champagnes here." Rain smiled far too pleasantly. "I'll take my time trying each and every single one." A vein popped on Ultima's forehead. Rain's presence alone was annoying enough, but having her overstay in the castle, drinking her precious collection, absolutely unacceptable. "Fine," Ultima snapped, irritation blasting through her refined demeanor. "I'll tell you what I know." Misery blinked, surprised. Rain's strategy actually worked. Sometimes logic really should be thrown out the window. Misery cleared her throat, her posture straight and composed as she fixed her gaze on Ultima. "Okay then, Violet, we're listening." Ultima exhaled softly, almost bored, and lazily swirled the champagne in her glass. "I first saw that demon 3 or so years ago. At the time, he was still a greater demon." Misery's eyes widened in disbelief. "Huh, he was a greater demon before being a primordial, so he wasn't just born." Ultima shook her head, still calm. "No, 3 years ago he was being trained by Noir. I never met him again. Then suddenly, 3 days ago, he's my sibling." Misery's brows knit together. That's too weird. But then something clicked in her mind and her expression shifted instantly. "Wait, did you say Noir was training him?" Violet rolled her eyes slightly. "I said exactly that." Rain's face twisted with irritation the moment Noir's name was mentioned. "Noir, that demon pisses me off. Instead of getting stronger, he's busy training useless demons. It makes me angry." Misery glanced at Rain briefly, then turned back to Violet. "What exactly is happening in the Underworld?" Ultima shrugged. I don't know, don't ask me. Now I've answered all your questions, please leave. Rain leaned forward slightly, sighing dramatically. How cold, Violet. Misery pressed further. Is that all you know, Violet? Yes, Ultima replied. That's all I know, now leave. Fine, we will leave, Misery said. But before we do you have any idea where we can find the demon? I don't know and I don't care, Ultima answered bluntly. Misery narrowed her eyes. Why does it seem like you have animosity toward this demon, Violet? Ultima let out a long, tired sigh. I don't have any animosity toward him. I've just lost interest in him. Oh, Misery said. So you did have interest in him before. Violet's eyes slid to the side as she casually raised her glass again. Well, I did at one point marry him. Both Rain and Misery shouted in unison. What? Misery stared at her, stunned. How did that even happen? Ultima took another sip before answering. At one point, he was an interesting toy because he was different from anything I'd seen in the Underworld before. But now he's just generic. Rain groans. What's up with this demon and always being in weird situations anyway? Ultima set her glass down. Look, you two, I've said what I know. If you want any more information, you should probably look for Noir or John. Misery nodded and stood. Thank you for your cooperation, Violet. Ultima waved them off without looking at them, already lifting her glass again for another sip of champagne. Rain swallowed, staring longingly at the bottle. Violet, maybe you could let me have one sip. No, Ultima said calmly. Leave. Come on, Violet, you can't be that. No. Rain tried again, but... No. Rain opened her mouth again, but Misery quickly cupped her hand over Rain's lips. She forced a polite smile toward Ultima. We will leave now, Violet. Without another word, Misery teleported herself and Rain out of the castle. Chapter 31. Karara vs. Misery and Rain. 3 days later. A ripple of magic tore opened the air as Misery and Rain materialized in a new domain. The instant they land, Rain stretched her arms upward, groaning. Misery, this brother of ours really is hard to find. Is he actively hiding from us? Misery sighed as she adjusted her cloak. I don't know if that's the case, but it truly is annoying having to search all over for him. I agree with you, Rain said, brushing invisible dust off her outfit. So what's next? Misery's expression tightened. I hate to come and ask her for help, but we have to ask Karara. They both stared up at the imposing black stone structure just ahead, Karara's castle. Rain crossed her arms. Karara, huh? I wonder if she's still that battle maniac that fires off nuclear magic all the time. I don't know, Misery muttered, but we cannot let our guard down, knowing her she might. Before Misery could finish, a massive nuclear blast plummeted from the sky like a falling star. Both Misery and Rain reacted instantly, splitting apart in opposite directions as the blast slammed into the ground where they stood. BOOM! A deafening explosion ripped through the landscape, leaving behind a gigantic scorched crater that sank deep into the earth. Misery clicked her tongue in irritation. She found us first. Rain wiped imaginary sweat from her forehead. My goodness, that was close. A voice echoed from above, dripping with mocking amusement. Oh, if it isn't the subordinates of Rouge. You two are very brave, suddenly showing up in my domain. Rain and Misery looked upward to see Karara, floating lazily in the air with her arms folded, nuclear energy flickering around her. Misery stood up straight. John, respectfully, Guy Sama has a name and it's Guy Crimson. I would appreciate it if you addressed him as such. Karara tilted her head and smiled arrogantly. Huh, why should I do that? He's no master of mine. Misery grits her teeth but forced her tone steady. Anyway, we didn't come here to fight, John. We have some questions to ask. But Rain immediately cut her off. John, has your nuclear magic gotten stronger? Karara smirks. Yes, I've recently been working on my magic more. I'm surprised you noticed. Rain nodded confidently. Well, the last time I was on the receiving end of one of your blasts, they weren't as strong. Obviously, I'd notice. Misery, still on the ground, twitched. A vein popped on her forehead. She inhaled sharply. Rain, maybe we should. I don't know, stick to the topic. Rain shuddered at the sudden sharp tone. I was just trying to have a conversation starter, Misery. You don't just suddenly ask for someone's help. Have you not learned anything about socializing and politeness from Luminous Valentine? Misery's composure cracked. Well, we are on a time constraint here. Social etiquette is the last thing on my mind. Rain folded her arms with a smug expression. MMH, I question your ability to host the forthcoming Demon Lord banquets, Misery. Misery gritted her teeth visibly. You bastard. Up above, Karara yawned loudly. I really have no interest in watching you two squabble. And just as Rain said, yes, I've improved my nuclear magic. And as it happens, I've been looking for some test subjects. A slow, manic grin spread across her face, and the perfect subjects just delivered themselves to me. Misery let out a long, suffering sigh. Look, John, like I said before, we are not here to fight. We just want information from you. Karara cut her off sharply. Primordials who don't want to fight. Has being Rouge's slaves turned you two into Noir now? She sneered. Don't fuck with me. Rain exploded with anger. Don't compare me to that useless demon. Karara's smile widened. Then show me that you're not Noir. She launched 2 nuclear blasts, one toward each of them. Rain and Misery instantly dodged, the beams scorching the air behind them. Rain glared up at Karara. All right, you asked for this. Both Rain and Misery took flight, rushing straight toward Karara. The battle between Karara, Misery, and Rain raged on for quite some time. Each collision between them tore apart the landscape. Mountains sheared in half, the ground split open in deep trenches. And the air itself trembled from shockwaves of nuclear magic, corrosive curses, and spatial tearing. The once open plains of Karara's domain had turned into a fractured battlefield shaped by the overwhelming power of 3 primordials. Yet despite her overwhelming destructive force, Karara could feel it, the growing disadvantage of a 1 versus 2. Rain's bursts of compressed magic and Misery's precise, curse-laden attacks kept her constantly shifting between offense and defense. If this dragged on any longer, she would lose. Not decisively, but still lose. So Karara did the only rational thing a primordial demon would do in such a situation. With a sudden burst of speed, she broke out of the pincer assault and put distance between herself and the sisters. She dusted off her shoulders as if the fight bored her. Well, it's pretty clear this was a draw, she declared casually. Let's end it here. I've had enough. Rain's eyes widened in disbelief. Huh, a draw? What are you talking about, John? Karara looked at her, as though explaining something to a toddler. Blue, a draw is exactly that, a draw. Are you not smart enough to understand that? Rain immediately shot back. We were definitely going to beat you, and now you're backtracking. Karara scoffed loudly. Even if that were the case, which it was not, are you really trying to justify beating me 2-on-1? How far you've fallen, Blue. Rain tried to argue, John, you know. But Misery cut her off sharply. Let it go, Rain, it doesn't matter anyway. We were never here to fight. Rain gritted her teeth, clearly frustrated, but eventually nodded. Fine. Karara brushed her hands off with a satisfied nod. Well then, Blue, Vert, I'm going to go ahead and leave. Misery immediately stepped forward. John, we have some questions for you. Karara paused mid-turn. Oh, well, since you did happily become my test subjects, I guess I can help with that much. Misery let out a soft sigh. John, I'm sure you know that we have another sibling now, right? Karara shrugged without much enthusiasm. Oh, you're talking about Bordeaux. Rain crossed her arms. That's his title. Yes, Kara replied simply. Misery's eyes glimmered slightly. Finally, a worthwhile lead. We might have hit the jackpot here. John, what more do you know about Bordeaux? Kara raised an eyebrow. You're going to have to be specific here, Vert. Just anything you know, Misery clarified. His appearance, personality, beliefs, strength, anything. Kara tapped her chin thoughtfully. I don't know Bordeaux that well, Vert, but as for what I can tell you. She paused. Well, he's got maroon hair and a maroon sclera. Misery's eyes narrowed. Maroon sclera, so he's a maroon primordial. What was his original sclera color? Kara shrugged again. He's always had the same color since he was a greater demon. I see, Misery murmured. Anything else? Kara thinks a bit more. As for his personality, I haven't spent that much time with him. Noir would probably know more, but he definitely does not think like a demon from what I've felt. Misery's interest deepened. Oh. He might actually be a good demon, Kara admitted reluctantly. But then again, I'm not sure. Misery smiles. So he's not the kind who will cause destruction for the fun of it, correct? Kara lifted her shoulders again. Like I said, I'm not sure, but he doesn't seem like that type. He seems more curious about everything and wants to know about everything. Oh, and also, he's like totally a battle freak. Misery nodded slowly. Okay, so if you give him something or someone to keep him busy, he won't cause trouble. Well, yes, Kara replied simply. Rain suddenly jumped into the conversation. Wait, John, how strong is he actually? Kara scratched the back of her head, looking mildly annoyed at the question. Well, he is strong, yes, but when we were fighting 3 days ago, he ran away from me. I guess that makes me stronger than him. Misery instantly chimes in with a deadpan voice. He's stronger than you, isn't he? Kara snaps instantly. He's not. She flails her arms slightly, red with irritation. Sure, he might be a bit faster, stronger, more agile, and have some cool skills, but that's not all that decides a fight. Rain gasps dramatically. Don't tell me he's stronger than all of us as well. Is this a repeat of Guy-sama and Noir, where the strength is so uncountable it feels unfair? Kara clenches her jaw. It's not as bad as you make it seem. I think I won't lose to Bordeaux, and the next time we meet, I'll definitely prove it. Misery let out a quiet exhale. Well, we will leave then, John. It would have been nice to find Bordeaux himself, or maybe Noir, but it seems those two do not want to be found. She straightened her cloak. We will look around a bit more, but I think we have enough information for Guy-sama. Kara waved her hand dismissively. I don't care, I'm out. And she teleported away, without another word. Misery pressed her fingers to her temples. Rain, let's try to find him a bit more. Rain nodded. Okay, Chapter 32, Visiting Testarossa. An elegantly furnished living room basked in a soft, warm glow. White marble floors, velvet sofas, and delicate light drifted through tall curtains. At the center of it, a woman in flawless white sat with perfect posture, casually sipping tea while flipping through a magazine. That woman was none other than Blanc, also known as Testarossa, the White Primordial. Behind her stood 2 demons, demons that would later be known as Moss and Shin, as named by Rimuru Tempest. They were silent and alert, their presence more reminiscent of watchful statues than guards. It was supposed to be a peaceful, uneventful afternoon, which was exactly why the voice that suddenly cut through the room struck like a blade. It really is peaceful here, isn't it? Moss and Shin jerked in shock. Their eyes darted toward the intruder and their blood ran cold. Maroon hair, maroon sclera, an elegant suit, hands casually in his pockets as if he'd been standing there all along. Haru, the maroon primordial, had arrived. Shin's thoughts raced instantly. Who is this? When did he get here? How long has he been standing there? Why didn't I sense him at all? But Moss, on the other hand, didn't waste a second. He lunged forward almost instinctively. Blanc-sama is in danger was his only thought. He was fast, but Haru didn't even blink. He just raised one hand and grabbed Moss by the head mid-lunge. "Now that's rude, don't you think?" Haru said calmly. "At least greet me first." Moss was paralyzed with shock. He saw me, he thought. He struggled desperately and violently, yet his arms barely twitched. "It's useless, he's too strong." Shin broke out into a cold sweat. He had caught Moss, the strongest subordinate under Blanc-sama, like he was nothing but a mere inconvenience. What is this monster? Meanwhile, Blanc continued sipping her tea as if watching children bicker on the floor, completely unmoved. Shin made a split-second decision. He leapt forward, intending to free Moss, but Haru's other hand snapped up instantly, grabbing Shin's face as well. The smile that stretched across Haru's lips was manic. "Both of you, huh?" And then boom! He slammed them both into the floor, causing the entire castle to shake due to the sheer strength of the impact. The marble ground cratered violently, collapsing through to the lower floor with a thunderous crash. Walls cracked, dust shot up, furniture toppled. Blanc's teacup rattled, and a splash of tea spilled onto her sleeve. Her eye twitched with a hint of irritation. Haru stood up, dusted his hands off, and looked around at the destruction. I might have made a bit of a mess." Moss and Shin lay in the crater, groaning. From the couch, Blanc's voice floated in, calm, cold, and eerily composed. "Are you done now?" she asked, looking straight at Haru. Haru pointed at the two demons accusingly. "Oh, come on. Don't make it sound like this is entirely my fault. They attacked me first." Moss and Shin pushed themselves upright, staggering but still conscious. Moss clenched his fists. "I won't let you get anywhere near Blanc-sama." Shin mustered a shaky grin. That's right, you'll have to kill us first." But Blanc finally stood, brushing the spilled tea from her sleeve with a soft sigh. "Let it go, you two." Her sharp gaze pinned them both. "You should have realized during your first attempt that you are no match for him. This pointless self-sacrifice is unnecessary. You wouldn't even buy me a single minute." Moss lowered his head immediately. "I apologize for my weakness, Blanc-sama. You are right, he's too strong." Shin said nothing, shame written all over his face. Haru shrugged. "Don't be so harsh on them, Blanc. They're good subordinates, if you treat them too badly. I might take them for myself." Blanc exhaled slowly, then looked directly at him. "What is it? Can I help you with something, little brother?" She said the words clearly. Haru smiled. "Do I need a reason to visit my elder sister?" Silence. Moss and Shin were frozen. They stared back and forth between Testarossa and Haru, and then, simultaneously, they exclaimed, "Huuh." Their voices echoed through the ruined hall. Moss, still shaken from his earlier defeat, let his eyes drift toward Testarossa. He swallowed and forced a shaky smile. "Blanc-sama, when you told me about getting a new sibling." Testarossa finished the thought for him without looking away from Haru. "Yes, this is him." Moss exhaled softly, almost in relief. His gaze moved back to Haru, who was calmly brushing dirt off his sleeve as though nothing had happened. "Suddenly," Moss muttered with a weary smile, "my loss does not feel as embarrassing anymore." Shin blinked between the three of them, his brows pinched. "Why does it feel like I'm the only one out of the loop?" Testarossa ignored Shin and sat back down, her smile polite and edged with curiosity. "Why really are you here? Surely you don't intend to fight me, right?" Haru started walking toward her, hands still in his pockets. "Like I said," he replied casually, "I'm really just here to visit my older sister." Testarossa's eyes narrowed a fraction in analysis. She studied the way Haru moved. It was calm, loose, and obviously not preparing for an attack. "I don't feel any animosity from you," she admitted. "You really are as weird as they say you are." Moss and Shin instinctively stepped aside as Haru approached. both expecting some form of confrontation, only to freeze as Haru walked straight past them. He plopped onto the couch Testarossa was sitting on, shifted until he was comfortably settled, and then, without hesitation, rested his head on Testarossa's lap. His eyes closed immediately, as if this was the most natural place in the world. Testarossa went rigid. Internally, her thoughts scrambled. Does he think I'm a pillow or something? Shin's jaw dropped. Moss blinked hard, convinced for a moment that he was hallucinating. Haru felt their shock and simply ignored it. From their perspective, he knew it must have been bizarre. Demons weren't like humans. They didn't lay their heads on each other. They didn't seek warmth. They didn't relax around one another ever. Demons had no compassion for each other. Even the 7 Primordials, who were siblings, had battled and resented each other for ages. But Haru wasn't a normal Primordial. He had lived twice before this third life. He had experienced genuine sibling affection, warmth, teasing, the kind of comfort that didn't exist in the world of demons. When he died in his second reincarnation and was reborn as a demon, he buried that emptiness deep, but it never stopped hurting. For 2 years he had wandered alone, and even after meeting Diablo, the closest thing he had to a bond was still distant. Diablo found him interesting, nothing more. So when Haru became a Primordial, he didn't hate it, because it meant he had siblings again. They might not feel compassion the way he did, but that didn't matter. He would still form bonds with them on his own terms. Testarossa looked down at Haru, genuinely shocked at how peaceful he looked resting on her lap. His expression was soft, unguarded, and completely free of tension. He trusted her enough to fall asleep like this. Her hand hovered uncertainly over his hair. What am I doing? She wondered. Why am I letting him do this? But instead of pushing him away, she slowly began brushing her fingers through his hair. Her movements were awkward at first, mechanical. Then gradually they became smooth and gentle. The sensation was unfamiliar, strange, and softening. She didn't understand what this feeling was. But she didn't hate it. Moss watched the scene with exhausted disbelief. Shin stared with his mouth wide open. And Testarossa, the white primordial known for elegance and cruelty, found herself smiling faintly as Haru rested, content on her lap. Chapter 33, The Freeloading Dino. 3 days later, Misery and Rain arrived back in the Cardinal World. The instant they stepped through the portal, both looked more irritated than exhausted. Their detour to the Underworld had been straightforward until they made the mistake of visiting Testarossa. They had gone to her after meeting Carrara, hoping the white primordial might have more information on their brother. Instead, Testarossa had laughed in their faces and casually mentioned that Haru had left the moment he sensed their presence. Misery had practically started smoking from the ears, so he's actually avoiding us, she had snapped at the time. And now standing in Guy Crimson's throne room, she still hadn't cooled down. Inside the castle were Guy, seated comfortably on his throne, Velzard the Frost Dragon, leaning against a column with arms crossed, and the primordial angel Dino, sprawled lazily on a couch as if it belonged to him. Dino lifted his head when Misery and Rain entered. That was really fast, you two, less than a week. Rain scoffed immediately. You're still here, Dino. When are you planning on leaving? Dino sat up with a dramatic sigh. Come on, Rain. I try to give you a warm welcome and you instantly become cold to me. We don't need a freeloader's welcome, Dino, Rain replied sharply. We just need you to leave. Dino shrugged. What about Velzard-sama? She's a freeloader too, but you never say anything about her. Velzard didn't even look at him. Do not involve me in whatever scuffle you are having, Dino. Then she turned to Guy. Guy, did you have them run errands or something? Guy sat back leisurely, chin resting on his fist. I gave them a task. I'm waiting for their childish scuffle to end so I can get a report. Oh, Velzard said lightly, you didn't tell me anything. That's because you weren't here, Velzard. I suppose that's fair. Misery cleared her throat, drawing everyone's attention. We did manage to get some information on him, Guy-sama. Guy waved a hand. Oh, go on. But Velzard raised a hand and cut in. Wait, Guy, I need some context first. Guy exhaled through his nose. You weren't here when it happened, but it seems an 8th primordial demon was born. Velzard blinked. Oh, is that even possible? It doesn't matter whether it's possible, Guy said flatly. The fact is that it happened. Velzard's brows knit together. No, something is wrong here. My brother never mentioned anything about creating an 8th primordial. Rain crossed her arms. Could it be that maybe Veldanava-sama created an 8th primordial demon but just forgot about it? Misery stared at her like she'd sprouted horns. Are you an idiot, Rain? What, I think my question makes sense, Rain argued. Velzard shook her head. That's not possible. Whoever this new primordial is, he was not created by my brother. Guy's fingers tapped the arm of his throne. Now is not the time to try and make sense of the situation. Misery, Rain. The mission report, please. Oh, right. Sorry, Guy-sama. Misery straightened. We went to the Underworld as instructed, and we learned that the new primordial is titled Bordeaux, representing the color maroon. Dino raised a brow. Oh, he's got his own color lineage. Doesn't that make him a real primordial then? There are still things that don't make sense, Velzard admitted. But him having his own lineage definitely confirms him as a primordial. Guy leaned forward. What else did you find? Misery continued. We found out he only recently became a primordial, but he was a greater demon just 3 years ago. Also, for some reason, he was trained by Noir. Dino sat up straighter, trained by the Black Primordial. Guy chuckled softly. I spent a lot of time around Diablo before I fully manifested in this world. I can very clearly imagine Diablo finding Bordeaux interesting and deciding to train him just to get a closer look. Velzard nodded slowly. Well, he is the strangest of all the primordials. It's not exactly surprising. Guy waved the topic aside. All the other details don't matter. What I'm concerned about is his strength and whether he will become a problem for the balance of the world. Misery adjusted herself. About that, Guy-sama, we weren't able to find Bordeaux himself. Her eye twitched, because he was actively avoiding us. Rain nodded. But according to John, all Bordeaux really does is look for anything interesting and investigate it. And he really likes a good fight. Guy leaned back again. So as long as he's distracted, he won't cause trouble. Correct, Misery said. Also, Blanc told us that Bordeaux is extremely soft, at least around her. Dino blinked. Huh, a soft demon. What is up with this Bordeaux guy? Rain smirked. Well, one thing that's up with him is that he isn't a freeloader like you. Dino groaned. Don't start again, Rain. But Rain inhaled deeply and began chanting. Freeloader, 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 freeloader. Dino slapped a palm over his face. Stop saying it like that. Velzard let out a soft laugh and then joined in. Freeloader, freeloader, freeloader. Dino stared at her, horrified. Velzard-sama, you too could be classified as a freeloader. Rain and Velzard ignored him entirely, moving closer just to emphasize the chant. Misery simply sighed and turned to Guy. Guy-sama, that's all we have to report. May I be excused? Guy nodded. All right, you may leave. Good work. Misery bowed and exited the throne room. Guy shifted his gaze toward the window. Outside, snow drifted lazily across the skis. In the end, he murmured softly to no one, Veldanava, what exactly did you do? Chapter 34, The Silver Wings. 10 years later. A lot had happened in the past 10 years. Bordeaux had officially surpassed Blanc in strength after years of constant fighting. At this point, he was close to the power of the Black Primordial, Noir. Bordeaux could now be considered the third strongest primordial. Speaking of Noir, Bordeaux's battles with him in the Underworld had become legendary. In the last decade, they had fought no less than 300 times, and every battle after the 50th had ended in a draw. 250 draws with Noir. Granted, Noir got bored after the 50th and didn't take the fights as seriously, but it was still a great feat. Those constant, brutal fights were why Bordeaux's strength had skyrocketed. Everyone in the Underworld now knew the name Bordeaux. Countless demons seeking notoriety had challenged him, only to be swatted away like minor annoyances. As for his siblings, his relationship with Blanc had only deepened. Any lust Bordeaux once had toward her had vanished. He saw her entirely as an older sister now. He went to her for advice and guidance. Violet and John, on the other hand, did not have the comfort of Blanc. They hated the fact that Bordeaux, who was millennia younger than them, was also stronger. For 10 years straight, both attempted to beat him into submission. Of course, Bordeaux was too strong for either one individually, so whenever they were about to lose, they simply fled to avoid the embarrassment of being beaten by their younger brother. At one point, the two even teamed up to overwhelm him, but even then, the result was the same. Now, 10 years later, Bordeaux sat atop some ancient ruins with his old friend Agira, who was probably his only friend since reincarnating. Venom and Bordeaux couldn't really be described as friends, as they hadn't met again since that first time. And the reason why it was easy to become friends with Agira is because he was once human. Normal demons don't create bonds like friendship. Between Bordeaux and Agira was a bottle of luxury wine taken from Violet's collection. Wine Bordeaux had taken after borrowing it during an uninvited visit. He made these visits often. Agira took a long, satisfied sip. It's crazy how much stronger you've become in less than 15 years. Bordeaux leaned back with a shrug. Really, I don't feel that I've gotten that strong. Agira clicked his tongue. You're not as funny as you think you are, Bordeaux. Bordeaux burst into a loud laugh. But it's true. I can count several people on both of my hands who could still probably defeat me. Agira scoffed. Like who? I just cannot imagine you losing to anyone in the Underworld. He took another sip and hummed. My goodness, this is some good stuff. John Sama doesn't have any wine, so having this is incredibly satisfying. Bordeaux motioned to the bottle. Drink up, my friend, drink more. I can get more of these any time I want. Agira chuckled. Are you sure Violet just gifts you these? For some reason, I find that very hard to believe. Bordeaux was about to respond when a sudden pulling force tugged at him. His expression flattened. Ah, it seems I'm getting summoned again. Agira blinked. Huh, you're getting summoned, you, how? Yes, Bordeaux said, standing. It seems the summoner knows a very high-level summoning circle. A summoning circle capable of summoning a primordial. Huh, are you going? Bordeaux grinned. Of course, I'm interested in what exactly I'm being summoned for. Agira clicked his tongue. Leaving me to drink alone just to satisfy your curiosity. What a terrible friend you are. The Cardinal World. The moon was red. Everything around was black. A body lay on the ground, barely clinging to life. Next to that body was a woman, bruised, smeared with blood, and shaking as she drew a summoning circle with her own blood. These two women were clearly twins. You will pay for this, she whispered. You will pay for this. That demon, I swear I will make you pay for this. With trembling hands, she completed the circle and slammed both palms onto the blood-soaked ground. Come to me, please. The ground rumbled. The summoning circle ignited, burning a deep maroon. Flames shot upward, spiraling wildly as stones lifted into the air. The maroon fire curved and twisted until it formed a floating oval of light. The woman smiled through her tears. The fire dispersed, and from within stepped a demon wearing a smug grin, a pristine maroon suit, and an expression twisted with cruel curiosity. Bordeaux, the maroon primordial. He floated gently downward until his feet touched the ground. Then, In a voice he had practiced for years, he spoke. "Who dares summon me to such a lowly place?" The woman screamed desperately, "If you will grant my wish, I don't care if you are a demon. You can have my soul, so please, please make them, make them." Tears streamed down her face. Bordeaux did not show it outwardly, but he was momentarily taken aback. That statement, why did it sound so familiar? And why did this girl look so familiar? He brushed the thought aside and replied, "Very well. This does sound interesting. I will grant your wish. It beats being stuck in the underworld anyway." The woman pushed herself upright. "Thank you, and for your payment." She then proceeded to collapse. Bordeaux smiled as he leaned over her. He licked his lips. "Delicious. What emotions. Two souls, huh?" His grin widened, almost manic. "Because of this amazing taste, I will do you a great service." He lifted both bodies effortlessly. "That said, this is barely enough to have as much fun as I desire. I'll just borrow these souls of yours for some time and go find more." It was then that it fully clicked. He finally remembered where he had seen these girls and why that plea had sounded so familiar. The Silver Wings. He chuckled. He had taken Noir's place in episode 24 of Season 1, Black and the Mask. He looked toward the horizon. "Shizue Izawa," he murmured. "We are close to meeting, aren't we? Besides, it's been a while since I've been to the Cardinal World. I shall enjoy it to the fullest." Then he teleported away. Chapter 35, Shizue Izawa. Far off on the forest's edge, a woman in black and white adventurer clothing stood quietly, her hand resting near the sword at her waist. She had long black hair and wore a strange patterned mask that concealed her face. This was none other than Shizue Izawa, one of the strongest adventurers of the era. Shizue looked toward the strange castle towering in the distance. "The kingdom that borders the Jura forest. I was summoned here to help defeat a revived demon." With that, she began walking toward the castle. Meanwhile, Haru was already near the castle entrance. He wore a brown cloak that covered everything, even his hair, giving him an air of mystery. As he approached, a blond knight-standing guard looked him up and down. Then the man called out, "You there? Are you by any chance Shizue Izawa?" Under the cloak, Haru's eyes widened slightly. "Shizue, huh? So you really are coming. I can't wait to meet you and Ifrit." He smiled beneath the fabric. Haru replied, "Unfortunately, I'm not the incredible conqueror of flames. I'm just a normal adventurer who heard that people are being hired to help take down a demon." The guard's face twitched with irritation, though he hid it behind a polite smile. "She's not here yet, will she really come?" he wondered. He then said, "Of course. There are many adventurers already inside the hall. Please go in and walk straight down the hall to the last room." Still hidden beneath his cloak, Haru smiled again. "What, we don't get escorts? I mean, we're here to put our lives on the line." The guard internally scoffed. "Who does this random adventurer think he is? I can't wait to devour his soul as well. In fact, I'll devour him first. I hate these self-conceited types." But outwardly the guard maintained his smile. "Unfortunately, all our servants have been sent away due to the threat of the demon." "Oh, is that so? Well, that's unfortunate, but I understand," Haru said as he walked past the guard. After walking for a short while, Haru reached two large doors. Without bothering to open them, he simply teleported to the other side. What greeted him was a massive hall filled with people, at least 100. Haru began walking toward the front of the room. No one reacted to him, not because they didn't care, but because not a single one of them noticed him at all. That was the level of stealth Haru now possessed. To mere humans, he wouldn't be seen even while standing in plain sight. Back outside the castle, Shizue Izawa finally arrived. The blonde guard saw her approaching and his face lit up. Without a doubt, that's her. He stepped forward to greet her warmly. "Welcome to Filtwood Castle. It's a real honor to meet the famous conqueror of flames." Shizue simply nodded, The guard remained unfazed. "Please, this way, I'll show you to the reception." The two soon reached the double doors. Shizue lifted her hand to push them open, but the guard stepped forward. "Please, allow me." He pushed the doors open for her. "Thank you," Shizue said softly. "It's my pleasure. My job ends here, as I have to return to my post outside." Shizue nodded, and the guard turned and walked away as the doors closed behind her. Shizue began walking down the hall, and immediately conversations broke out among the adventurers. "It's Shizue Izawa, the conqueror of flames. Now this is reassuring. The demon is in for it now." Haru, standing at the very front, smiled to himself. "Shizue Izawa, she has arrived." He didn't turn around. He simply used universal sense to observe. She still wore her iconic mask, but Haru knew well how beautiful she truly was beneath it. Shizue looked around the room and thought, "Wow, they gathered quite a few people, didn't they?" Just then a tall man waved at her. He wore no shirt, only a strap bag across his chest, maroon pants and white wrappings on his forearms. "Hey, if it isn't Shizue," he called out. Shizue walked toward him. "Good to see you again, Kouder-san." "You got the call up as well, I see," Kouder said. Shizue replied, "Well, it was a request from the nation." Kouder chuckled. "You're still as serious as ever, huh? You could have just come up with some excuse to ditch it." Shizue said, "Well, you're here too, aren't you?" "That's just because I'm here for the pay," Kouder said with a shrug. "But I sort of regret it now. Apparently at least 10 skilled adventurers have died." "I see," Shizue replied. "But," Kouder continued with a grin, "the arrival of the champion is going to give hope to everyone." Shizue waved a hand dismissively. "Come on, you're exaggerating." Haru listened and quietly chuckled. Shizue is strong, no doubt, but she's dealing with a named archdemon here. Alone, she wouldn't be able to defeat them without letting Ifrit take over, something she'd never allow. Just then, a short old man with a long white beard entered. He wore a blue robe and a tall blue hat, walking in from the front, flanked by 2 guards. Kouder tapped Shizue's arm. "That's the minister." Both he and Shizue turned to face the old man. The minister projected his voice clearly. "Adventurers, I bring some unfortunate news. Our champions, the 2 silver wings, have unfortunately passed on." A wave of shock spread through the room. "What? Those 2? Are you serious?" The minister lowered his head, wearing a sorrowful expression. "It is true, and it seems their bodies were devoured with no trace left behind." Under his cloak, Haru looked at the minister with clear amusement. What an actor this demon is. Get him an Oscar immediately.